This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Schultz, and we are talking about the Seahawks' final preseason game as they beat the Cleveland Browns 37-33. A high-scoring preseason affair. Joining me to talk about it is my good buddy, Adam Emmert.
Yeah, man. Glad that we decided to do this today rather than last night. By the end of that game, I definitely was feeling it. I'm sure everybody else was too. Lasted a little long. But with that said, I think there's one word to describe this preseason game, Brandon. It was fun. It was just fun. Yeah.
It was fun. There are some things about it that, weren't so fun, but, we can get into some of the individual moments. I think the thing, when I reflect back that was the most fun was just seeing how quickly and efficiently when Geno Smith and the starting offense were out on the field, how quickly they scored.
It was lightning quick. A lot of passes, just a handful of passes, no runs. And they just marched right down the field, and Geno was surgical despite the miss on the first throw, which that was a minus. That wasn't a great throw, obviously. But holy smokes, that next pass to JSN was just one of those absolute dimes. This amazing throw followed with an amazing catch. That was a hell of a catch by JSN.
Yeah.
Give him all the credit on that one.
And as we are doing this on Sunday following the game in the preseason, we've got folks joining us live in the chat. We've got Amy, we've got our Ryan 911, Matthew, Barry joining us. I see Carly in the chat. We've got our Ryan 911 with the $9.99 super chat. Starters look good, ready for week one. And yeah, you go back to that first drive. There was one thing that jumped out at me immediately, and it was kind of a comparison of the first drive based on some of the things that we saw even later in the game. But the way that we've seen JSN used in the preseason this year, it has me more filled with confidence about offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb over Shane Waldron, because I don't know, we're using the guy as a receiver and not like Percy Harvin.
100%. He's not a gadget guy, and Chenault looks like he can fill that gadget guy role really well, right?
Exactly.
So why waste JSN's talent as a pure receiver by doing that sort of stuff? And they take him downfield, and Grubb has been good that way. I mean, you come away from this game and you got to say, look, if the offense can look 75 to 80% of that for an entire season from beginning to end, do I feel good about this team? Oh, yeah. Like, that would be a hell of a season. We'll see if that's the way that it unfolds. But, a couple caveats as we look at this. Offense, first team offense looked awesome.
Right.
It was against all the twos. It was. But if you're going to have an offense look awesome in the preseason against all that's how you want it to look right there.
Oh, yeah.
If you're playing all the twos, you can't ask for more.
Right. Yeah, and the fact that they didn't run the ball on the first drive, they didn't
run the ball at all until they finally gave it to McIntosh for the 50-yard scamper, right?
But the thing about that, too, was that McIntosh was RB1 in this game. We didn't see K9. We didn't see Charbonnet. So Kenny Mack was out there with the first-team offense. And so it was kind of cool when they actually finally decided to run the ball. I guess they did try and run it one time, and it got called back due to a penalty. A lot of penalties in this game, which that part of it wasn't so fun. But it was fun seeing Kenny McIntosh break one for 60-plus yards and, 56, so 60 minus yards, 56 yards. And that was his one carry on the day.
Yeah. Yeah, here you go, bud. And he made the most of it, and that was cool. I'd say out of watching the first half and the first two-team offenses, lots to be pumped about, lots of really cool stuff out there. Concerns about run-pass ratio. Now, with that said, look, they ran the ball quite a bit in the first two preseason games.
Yeah.
And maybe they were working more on the run in those two games. And in this game, they decided, hey, we need to work a little more on our passing concepts, and we're going to lean into that. So whether or not you can take this as a predictor as what the play calling will look like in the regular season, I don't know. Hard tell on not knowing. But Man, it was effective for August football, and it was really fun to watch because Geno was so on point, man. I just throwing absolute dimes, and then to see DK come out and just gronk up the defender there. I mean, holy cow, we've been hoping for that version of DK for his entire career to this point, because it feels like he's underutilized the size a bit to this point.
Yeah, and I do want to get back to that play by DK Metcalf, the touchdown throw. We've got Holiest Hand Grenade here in the chat saying any word on Nwosu. And that was probably one of the most concerning points of the first quarter, was with the first team defense out on the field. And I was only listening to the sequence, and so it almost felt like it was a retaliatory thing, because the play right before Nwosu gets injured with the helmet on his knee, he was at the feet of quarterback Jameis Winston and drew a 15-yard penalty. I'm kind of upset with the play that they drew up then on the very next snap by the Browns, because they left Nwosu unblocked on the edge. They pulled the right guard, expecting the right guard then to block Nwosu. And there's no way that he's going to be able to legit make that play without diving at Nwosu's legs. What are you doing as the Browns even running a play like that? They get the 15-yard penalty because a running back, it was like he was being touched by the running back and the guard at the same time. So they, he was engaged technically. But yeah, a scary injury for Nwosu, getting the helmet right on the knee.
Yeah, I had a really difficult time telling if it was the guard or the running back that went down towards his legs.
The guard.
Was it the guard? Okay, because they didn't really show much for a replay. You kind of caught it in the corner of a screen on one. It was interesting for sure. But at the end of the day, look, in the NFL, if you're one-on-one blocking and coming across the line of behind the line of scrimmage like the guard was there, the chop block is what they all go for. I mean, that's part of play in the league. We can sit and complain about, well, you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing. That's how football's played. So if you're really worried about it, then don't play your starters. I'm totally bummed that this could be a problem for Nwosu. My gut, just the way he walked off and kind of just the little tidbits that you've heard, nothing definitive. I'm very optimistic. I think it's not going to be a long-term deal for him. At least I'm hopeful that that's the case.
Yeah, the way that he walked off, it made you think that, okay, it was more of him saying, hey, if I'm going to get attacked like this out in the preseason, I don't need to be out here. That kind of hurt. Could he have played through it? Maybe, probably even. But why take a chance at that point? And yeah, it's preseason.
100%. So I'm hopeful that that's going to be fine there. If we're going to go down the injuries here a little bit, then Artie Burns injury, Corey, brings that up here in the chat, and yeah, it sounded like that might be a more serious thing. Again, I didn't see where it was that he got injured. Like, just all of a sudden somebody was like, oh yeah, and Artie Burns got hurt. I was like, wait, what? When?
Yeah. Well, Holiest Hand Grenade saying chest injury, Amy saying pec. So, yeah, that's one of those injuries too that it can take. Yeah, it's going to be a while to come back from, which is unfortunate, especially for a corner that, that's one of those ones that kind of keeps you out, even though you can still run, but obviously going to make it tough to, raise your arms and do that sort of thing as a corner.
Yeah, I can recall, a few players. It's generally like defensive linemen or offensive linemen that end up with the pec injury. It feels like, doing the really hard pushing with the upper body, but that's not going to be conducive for Artie's game. So, so Amy thinks maybe an ankle. See, there we go. We got a lot of armchair doctors out there today, and Artie Burns hurt. Might be better, might not be. That's
wait. Who was the chest injury then?
Your ma. I don't know.
I know it's we didn't get a lot of injury coverage from the broadcast, so
nor useful replays on a lot of plays. Like, they just kind of just focused on the guys muddling around after the play, and Mike Robb and Kate there would sit there and just kind of ramble on for a minute and doing their thing, and
Nwosu was the chest injury last year. Okay.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Going back to that DK Metcalf touchdown, that was another one of the plays I wanted to talk about, just the way it was drawn up, because they send Kenny McIntosh out to the right side, and then they had, I think it was Brady Russell or one of the tight ends that was coming over the middle, or it might even been Jake Bobo who was coming over the middle. But the way they split him out to the right side, it told Geno Smith right away, at least on the snap, that it was going to be DK Metcalf one-on-one along that left side against the defender. And as soon as Geno saw that, he's like, I know where I'm going with the football. It's going to DK Metcalf, and it's a touchdown.
I don't know if he was that definitive in his head that it was going to be a touchdown, but it was a definitive touchdown.
He's a confident guy. Like, I want to be confident about that.
Yeah, just the sheer physicality of the end of that catch for DK, I think, is one of the more encouraging things that came out of this game. That was awesome. If he's going to play like that, like, good luck, league. Best of luck to you, because there's no stopping that. Because that's a Gronk who's as fast as anybody else in the league.
Yeah, faster than, I don't know, 99% of the league, in fact. Yeah, another play on defense that was exciting with that first team. You know, we talked about Nwosu, but the Jarran Reed sack, I thought was particularly notable, just because it was Leo Williams that really created that lane for Jarran Reed as Leo broke inside in between, just a small crease in between the left guard and the center. And as Jarran Reed was engaged with the center, he was able to break off and just had a clear lane straight at Jameis Winston, able to take that sack.
Yeah, it was an effective way to get after the passer, no doubt about it. And defense looks smothering, even if it is against the twos. That's what you want it to look like. And one of the things I thought that was interesting about that play, Brandon, is if you just the angle that they had of the replay of the sack, kind of zoomed in on the quarterback there. Jarran Reed breaks through. Hall has the corner coming from the right side of the defense, has the corner, and is about ready to round the tackle there. Mafe on the bottom, same story. He's got the corner, and he's about ready to round the corner. They both see Reed with the pressure up the middle, and Jameis kind of take that half step forward, and they both stopped coming around the corner. It was like a mirror, too. So this is something that must be trained, and it makes a lot of sense. They both dead stop, and then just go, what would it be? Parallel to Jordan, or to Reed there, and basically just kind of work back into the C gap to be sure that if the quarterback steps up and Jarran's getting the pressure that he's getting, that there's no escape alleys.
Right.
And to watch them both do it exactly at the same time without hiccup, that was like, oh, wow. Like, that's a coaching point right there for sure. And it was kind of neat to see. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it felt real good to see that. It feels real good to see all the folks joining us here live on a Sunday afternoon. Be sure and hit that like button and subscribe to the show if you are new here. And another thing, okay, so a couple things that we liked, one on offense, one on defense. One thing I didn't like so much, Lance Boykin getting called for taunting on a third down stop. And then the very next play, DTR, deep pass to Pritchett. I don't know what Kobe Bryant was biting on that route over the middle, but left that middle of the field wide open for that deep touchdown pass.
Yeah, sure. If we're relying on Kobe Bryant to be a safety, we're in trouble one way or the other, so I don't really care. The one thing that I thought that was impressive from that was, man, did DTR get crushed after he let go of the football and still threw a dot. Like, congratulations to him on that. There's some ups and downs, or a lot of downs with the defense later in the game as you get to 2s and 3s. And I think really what that's about is at some point you're done trying to just fit into the scheme and do your thing to try to make the scheme work. At that point, man, these guys are fighting for their football lives, and they're just trying to do anything to get on tape to either stay with the Seahawks or latch on with another team. And so, like with Boykin, right? Like, you got to get into a mind space of, I don't know, the mental, the height that you have to get to just in aggressiveness and all that. that's where he was at, makes a good play and then makes it a bad play by, yelling at the dude. But you have to be in such a heightened state, I think, at that point, that I can understand the penalty. And then also two refs in the preseason with, everything that's going on in these guys. Like, this might be their one shot. Like, you know what? Let them run their mouth a little bit. It might be the only time that they're ever really going to get to do that.
Yeah. Maybe we could cool it with the taunting penalties in the preseason. That's not that big of a deal.
Hey, man, appreciate you, NW. Yeah.
NW Gambit coming in with his message as a member for 10 months. One of the things that, yes, if you are a member out on YouTube, every single month you get a free little note that we'll throw up on screen for you just to kind of commemorate your YouTube membership, and says almost 1 year of non-freeloader status. Go Hawks. Thanks, NW Gambit.
Yeah, appreciate that a ton for sure. But penalties as a whole were a problem. It was sloppy on both sides. Again, guys just trying like hell to stay in the league.
The thing about that too, so you get the stop, they come back, and it would have been a third down stop. Then they throw the touchdown pass. Then Howell comes out with the second team offense. He throws a nice deep ball to Cody White down the left sideline. Yeah. And then another kind of questionable reffing call. I mean, it was the right call, holding on Christian Haynes. I think he was just being too aggressive as the defensive tackle was spinning and going to the ground. Like, he didn't need to fall on top of him. The dude was on the ground, but at the same time, refs, do you really need to call that? I mean, the dude wasn't getting to the quarterback anyway.
Are they anti-breakfast? The refs? Yeah. Because Hayes was just making him some pancakes out there, dude. Like, let the man play football. That's good physical football. This is the part of the league that starts to get me a little crazy. It's like, let guys play. For example, like the roughing the passer for Nwosu. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's football, man.
Yeah. So we got the good thing that we got out of that drive, though, if you get anything good after a touchdown being called back, is they drive far enough down the field that then it sets up Jason Myers for a 58-yard field goal that he drills right down the middle.
Oh yeah. Jason Myers on freaking point all night. Whatever it was that, nonsense I was talking last podcast about what he needed to do to try to get things going. Yeah. I'll shut up now because he clearly knows what he's doing at this point. I think my guess is Brandon is on extra points in the first two games. He was trying something different, like just working on that. Yeah, that's my guess, to be honest, because not only did he make them all, but they were all dead nuts perfect down the middle with all the leg. Like everything was just, you can't kick the ball better than that.
Maybe he was trying Blair Walsh's technique of just aiming at a field goal post rather than and trying to hit it dead nuts on rather than just kick it through the uprights.
Yeah, maybe. But whatever it is, I'm sorry, Jason Myers, you seem to have it figured out. I will shut up now.
Yeah, it was those kicks that help us get the 37-33 victory. Hey, we can't get out of here, Adam, without talking about another nice play that we got to see. How about that punt return by D. Eskridge? Not only a nice return, but a cool moment, just seeing how fired up his teammates were at that punt return.
Yeah, for sure. Look, if this is the last of D. Eskridge on this team, that's a great memory to go out on, and good for him, right? And other people have already said it, throughout the YouTube Seahawks universe or whatever. We all had that sinking feeling that when the flag came down, I was like, of course this is going to happen here because D can't ever catch a break, right? Yeah. And fortunately, against the Browns, the play stands. Great moment for him. And look, the Seahawks were doing their best throughout the game to talk him up. Mike Robb really doing his best to talk him up. I think they're trying to set him up so that another team's going to be interested. He's going to get another shot because I don't think he's going to make this roster. But one of the things I did notice after the game in terms of trying to help guys along, D, they really did a ton to talk him up throughout the game. Then they brought out a bunch of dudes that you're like, hey, they probably aren't going to make the roster, but they brought them out for press conferences so that they could get that part of them as a player out, right? Like, this is how I can be in front of the podium. This is how I represent your organization. And just another thing that they can put on tape for the other teams. And one of those dudes was Jamie Sheriff. And honestly, after hearing Mike Mack in the press conference, I'm like, are you kidding me right now? You can't find room for the guy who was stocking beer literally not long ago, and now he's out here balling the hell out. I'm gonna be bummed if he doesn't make it.
You can't find a spot on the roster for Jamie Sheriff. Now, I think it does make it a little bit easier now that Darrell Taylor was traded away to the Bears, because I think he fills that role as well or better than Darrell Taylor did, and probably better because I think he can play the run better than Darrell Taylor. But at the same time, okay, you want those guys to get jobs and be on 53-man rosters elsewhere. But some of these guys too, you want them to make your practice squad. Like, maybe we can chill out and cool down on these guys, so that way when if they do get cut from the 53-man roster, maybe we can sneak them through to the practice squad. I want Jamie Sheriff on my team. Another thing that I want is I want to somehow keep all 4 of the running backs.
Holani looked good in this game. Obviously, Kenny Mack has the big run and has done some cool stuff throughout the preseason. I like Sharps. I'm in love with K9. Give me all 4 somehow. I'd love to do that. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Wide receiver, and tight end, probably the other 2 spots where you're like, man, I'd really like to keep a ton of these dudes, but it's not possible.
The truth as I know it in the chat saying Eskridge can't come back.
Injury.
Second to CJ Procise, most injury prone player to put on a Seahawks jersey. And I mean, I guess that was my red flag too, was seeing him in the press conference getting asked about his injury. And he's like, no, I wasn't injured last week. I was just being safe. It's like, dude, if you're just being safe in the preseason when you know that you're kind of on that bubble, I'm kind of with Carly. I don't trust it, but at the same time, I think that it was cool, and I do hope that he goes on to have success somewhere else. And if he doesn't make the team, obviously he makes the team, then I hope he has success here. But I want good things for D.
Sure. We'll see. I don't trust him as well, Car. Like, I just don't think that's a guy that, although I'm not going to lie. All right. He's running back the kickoff or the punt. I'm sorry. And I'm watching it and I'm getting fired up, and you know me, man, I've been on the D train since he was drafted. And, just when I'm like, yeah, no, screw this, I'm totally out, he does something like that, and it's like a little hit of heroin, and I'm like, well, maybe I could just have a little more D. Like, and I know now that no, we do not need that.
I think we saw stuff like that from Procise too, where you see those flashes of talent, and you're like, yes, that's the guy that I want, and it ends up just being a tease.
Yeah,
in some cases, so.
Procise, Penny, Eskridge, they're all the same dude that way to me.
Yeah. And I mean, Adams to that extent too, while he was here. Like, we got that really solid year after the trade, and then it was injury, and then you see the little flashes. And so, yeah, it makes it tough. It does make you appreciate those guys that are able to stay on the field consistently, because they're all getting dinged up here and there.
Oh, for sure. And one of the funny things is Britt was sitting next to me during the game, and she was asking about, guys getting hurt and like how often it happens and things like that. And like, she's like, I think it's probably important that they figure out how to fall, right? And right then Eskridge has a reception. So I was like, yeah, exactly. For example, that dude, he has no idea how to fall, anything like that. He's always hurt. Like, and it's a problem. Health is a part of talent. He doesn't have it.
The Snail, a member for 23 months, coming up on 2 years. I think the Snail was our very first YouTube member.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. D got that TD, so JS can get something in trade. If John Schneider finds a way, okay, he trades cornerback Michael Jackson, who's probably wasn't going to make this roster as a corner, gets Michael Barrett, a linebacker out of Michigan. Then He trades Darrell Taylor for a 6th-round pick. If John Schneider can get a pick or any compensation for DK Eskridge in the preseason, I think he's got this General Manager of the Year award wrapped up before the season even starts.
I'm kind of curious. I've never kept track of it, but between now and the start of the season, how many trades actually happen? I would imagine it's none, right? Like, you just wait for all these dudes to get cut. Like, why would you be giving up draft capital? Because I think everybody and their dog knows that it's pretty unlikely that DK Eskridge is going to be on the roster. So why am I giving up draft capital?
I think the reason for that is, and that's why you see a lot of these, 6th-round pick for a 7th-round pick swaps. So they still keep one pick, but they're just trading picks. And that way they can, it's some kind of compensation, but then you can be sure to get the guy that you might be interested in on your roster, and you're giving up a 6th or 7th-round pick, which you're probably going to end up getting by trading away one of your guys. So I think we're starting to see a lot more of those moves toward the end of the preseason. I think part of it too is because you go from the 90-man roster. It used to be you'd have the 90-man roster, you'd cut down to 70 something, and then you'd cut down to the 53. And now, since they changed it from 90 down to 53, as Eaglet Snupper is asking, do we know how many guys are getting cut / practice squatted? We know that 37 dudes are getting cut because it goes from 90 down to 53. And then you hope that some of those guys you're able to bring back on your practice squad. Some of them are going to be practice squad players that you had your eye on that get cut from other teams, and then you want to bring on and maybe elevate them to your 53 at some point in the season. So yeah, between all of those cuts and all the movement from other teams, this is a really interesting time of year and busy time of year for John Schneider.
It is. And if I could have John Schneider's ear for a moment, I would say Jamie Sheriff for sure. Get him to the practice squad if you're not keeping him on the 53. And the Kalispell kid, Patrick O'Connell, get him on the practice squad. For God's sakes, he was out there balling out play after play. I mean, it got to a point even where, Mike Robb is just kind of laughing about, oh, Patrick O'Connell again. Like, there he is. And I think that that's somebody that should get rewarded by being on the practice squad. And we are not at all biased because he's from our hometown in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no bias at all. That he actually visited my daughter's grade school and handed out autographs to the kids there. There's no bias at all.
None.
When it comes to me.
Yeah.
He should make the team.
Yes.
Ganos was saying, or was thinking, Chicago getting excited about Darrell Taylor is like us getting excited to get Draymond Jones.
That's pretty good.
It might be. I feel like there was, for an $18 million player, there had to be some other teams out there trying to get Draymond Jones. But shoot, as I was seeing the graphics team of Chicago working overtime and showing like, they put up Darrell Taylor with, however many sacks that he had during his time in Seattle. It's a pretty good sized number. And then it had like 23 run stops. And I'm like, oh man, this Darrell Taylor guy, he sounds really good based on these numbers.
They must have been very generous with the definition of a run stop if he had all the way up to 23. I just hope EJ and all the rest of the Bears fans really do enjoy watching Darrell Taylor enter the game, and for the quarterback to immediately audible to a run to his side of the field. Like, it's a great time. It's fun to watch. You guys should enjoy. Yeah, he's a great pickup.
Yeah.
Him and Waldron, you're going to just love them.
Love both of them, Chicago fans. Just wait.
Yeah.
Other guys, let's see. Any other notes here before we get on out of here? I know there's a lot of folks asking about, how many tight ends do we keep? How many wide receivers do we keep? Yeah, it's really hard to know just based off of, do you go off of John Schneider's tendencies? Do you go out just based off of talent on the roster? The thing is, we're going to know by Tuesday, or at least have kind of an idea, because that's when the 53 is finalized on Tuesday coming up this week. And then you'll start to see little shifts here and there. So if you're worried that so-and-so, like, especially you'll see veterans who get cut right before the 53, especially if they're kind of those fringe veteran players. It's because they don't want to guarantee their salary for the entire year. and they sometimes they'll have little deals set aside for those people that they'll make the roster. It's just they don't want to have to be on the hook for guaranteeing the entire salary for some of those veterans. So Tuesday is going to be an interesting day.
It's going to be an interesting day. I did have one more thing to add, Brandon, that I think has to be discussed because I think it's extremely important. Michael Bennett is a national treasure, and we need more Michael Bennett in our lives. That was freaking hysterical listening to him and Mike Robb throughout the game there. I mean, when he's talking about just, dude doing joystick things out there and he's giving like the control, that was laugh out loud for me. Talking about, who was it? Was it Bradford's neck chain or whatever?
It was Geno. He was talking about tucking his chain back in after going to the ground.
There was that one. And then there's a sideline interview, and who was it that came up? I think it was JSN.
It was JSN because he had his two bodyguards that were behind him. Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike Robb's like, oh my gosh, look at Bradford's chain. Like, he's got all that ice on there. It must be cold. And, Bennett being like, I ain't cold. I'm not even sure that crap's real. Like, that stuff, that made me laugh so hard. And then they were coming back from commercial, and there was a little snippet where the audio pops back in, and he's like, well, if I was your neighbor, and then boop, it was cut back out again. And then it came back for half a tick, and they were joking about beers. They cut back out again for a minute. And then Mike Bennett was gone. So I think that like he'd finally gone too far off the rails, and they were like, okay, well, this is enough Mike B. But I take that every single Seahawks game if I could get it. He's fucking hilarious.
A lot of good quotes coming in.
That was a good one.
From the chat. Nobody wants a stiffy. You have to text the quarterback to know that you're going to hit him. Yeah, I'm with NW Gambit. Mike B, Mike Robb, Cliff, they need full-time announcing jobs. We need to have, look, if they can do Manning cast type things during Monday Night Football, how can we not have just a live stream, an alternate broadcast with our hometown announcers that, Steve Rabel still does the radio thing, but then we have like our TV guys that travel with the team too, and that we can tune into their broadcast every single game. And then we don't have to complain about Aikman. We don't have to complain about Brady this year and not wanting to listen to him. Yeah, we need this needs to happen.
100%. It cracked me up all game. I love Michael Bennett. I miss Michael Bennett. And give me that cast week in, week out. I'll pay for it. I will.
Yeah. Well, we're finding out that even things that we want to pay for, the NFL just doesn't want to happen, because it was ESPN that was saying that they wanted to do packages for just your team, so you could watch just your team like a Sunday ticket type thing and offer it for $70. That was one of the things that came out through this whole trial about the DirecTV, and it's like, come on, NFL, what are you doing? I know you're trying to protect your billion-dollar assets and TV packages that you sell off to the highest bidders like Amazon and CBS, but how about looking out for us too?
Yeah, and they had an adverse ruling in that little lawsuit there. I mean, what was it? 12 billion, 4 billion, lots of billions.
Yeah.
And look, I think could be changes that come out of that because
except then they got the judge to throw it out.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, last I heard was Jerry Jones being like, well, if you ever see me worried, then you should be worried. Like, it was still up in the air. I didn't realize it had been finalized.
I mean, they have the opportunity to appeal it then to the, but yeah, the judge ended up throwing it out.
What do you think the price of the judge was? 2.5 billion, about half of the actual settlement. The NFL bought him off.
Yeah, it probably didn't even need to be that much.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh, so another question I had that came up from this game: do the refs have the home broadcast feed in their ears, or was it just a really weird coincidence? Because at one point in the game, Mike Robb says it's preseason for the refs too. And before calling a hold penalty, Clay Martin, the ref, turns around to the camera and says, and for you guys.
Oh, yeah. I think it was because he was starting to signal to the wrong sideline where the cameras aren't.
Yeah.
And so that's when he turned around. I was like, and for you guys, like to the cameras, like I'm supposed to do my job. I don't think that they were connected. I don't think.
It was just so weird because it almost sounded like he was talking to the broadcasters saying it was preseason for them too.
Right. No, I get that. And look, anytime I get a little humor out of the refs, I'm in. Give me that all day.
It was good. Yeah, he had a little smirk, and so I couldn't tell if the smirk was, he realized he was facing the wrong direction, or
that was a
he was
great
talking to
one.
the team.
Yeah, when the ref last year, I'm speaking to America right now.
Yeah, that was a reaction right to the players. So
Right.
it was just going to be shocking to me if the refs had somehow the broadcast team in their ear, because that would come in really handy, especially if you're the home team, letting the ref know that there was an actual penalty.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I don't think that the competition committee is going to allow that to happen.
Well, big thanks. We got almost, 135 people joining us on Sunday following the game after the Seahawks get the 37-33 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, it was, maybe not the cleanest game, but a fun, high-scoring game, and our Seahawks come away with the victory in the end. And, there's going to be a lot of people we're going to be watching this week to see if they ultimately make the team.
Yep, should be interesting. We'll get a little more insight into how this team is going to function under Mike McDonald and crew. I'm excited. That was, again, like you said, fun. It was encouraging. And the next time that we see real football, Brandon, it'll be real football.
It'll be real football coming up. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.